The Singapore economic and social development model has been described as the miracle of the modern times, And in particular, this year, internationally at forums, a lot of debate about the Singapore model. And the reason is because the United Nations Millennium Development Goals, MDGs, are ending this year. A new set of, 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, will replace the MDGs. So the big question today that many countries are facing is, how do we finance, how do we pay to attain these SDGs? And that's why the Singapore model is so fascinating, because the key component of our economic system is CPF. If other countries can follow our CPF system, they will have lots of money to achieve whatever goals, SDGs. Most of the countries may not even have a budget deficit if they run their CPF like ours. Now, our CPF has been invariably described as the best pension system in the world. Some say it's the worst. Let me just briefly, why is it the best? Because in terms of sustainability, there's no problem. It does not cost the government a single cent. Ours, the pension system, where government don't have to pay anything at all. Why? Because all the money comes from you. It's 38% of your salary contribution going forward. Like Chris said, not only government doesn't spend a single cent, they make a lot of money, right? That's what your last 1 hour all about. Now, Chris, I think, very conservative person. He says that he estimates the excess returns from 1999 to now is 90 billion.
95 onwards.
95 onwards, 90 billion. I estimate from 1981, the year the GRC started, I won't call it excess returns now. Let me call it the cumulative loss of Singaporean CPF. And my estimate is 180 billion.
Wow.
But I'm only going back to 1981. If I go back to 1974, when Temasek was formed, must be over 200 billion. If I go all the way back to when the CPF scheme started, I think wait for your election rally when you ask the people, right? Because nobody knows. Ministers like Goh Chin Chai, Ong Teng Cheong have stated in Parliament or been quoted that our CPF has been used to develop Singapore for infrastructure development, to build many of the companies that are in Temasek stable. And for a long time, the position was that, your money is not managed by Temasek, your money is also not managed by GIC. But thanks to people like Roy, so all of a sudden, thanks to Roy, and then finally they all our CPF is managed by GIC, Of course Temasek has 16% a year return for 40 years. Temasek only tell you 5.2% in Sing dollar term last year. This year 6.5% is US dollar term. Increase this year never tell us Sing dollar terms, right? Never, right? So very funny, sometimes Sing dollar, sometimes US dollar, sometimes Sing dollar, US dollar. But only recently in the past don't have. So if you go all the way back when CPF started, I think the annualized return may be around 6.5. So the thing that nobody knows, the biggest secret in Singapore, is how much interest you get on your CPF and what is the return derived from the money from the CPF. Even now, when you ask, what is the weighted average return on our CPF? You know, weighted average return, very complicated now. Ordinary account, 2.5, special account, Medisave, 4, then first 60,000, extra 1%, 20 to 08, the rest Medisave and special account. Then now, all of a sudden, another extra 1%, making it as much as 6% on the first 30,000, only for age 35. So, can't you just tell us everything and together 1 year how much you pay? It's so simple. But not enough, must tell us every year go backwards. Right? So in order to solve this mystery, what we need is transparency and accountability. Okay? Tell us. Every year, what you pay us, all the accounts. Every year, what is the return derived from our CPF? Every year, what is the CPF balance, all the balance? I read Chris' article. You estimated that in 1 year alone, 2014, the excess return derived by GIC less the CPF return was 10.1 billion in 1 year.
Not CPF, all the debt combined.
Oh, okay.
Debt, including
Must have read wrongly. So anyway, every year, the net CPF, net CPF, the amount you contribute every year is always more than the amount that you withdraw. And this amount has been increasing, every year. So, do you think you will ever get the answer to these questions? Maybe it's after September. Now, the problem with, I think, a lot of these discussions is, we talk about reserve of 1 trillion, everything in the billion, right? What does it mean to each of you? And for this, my good friend Roy Leong has agreed to help me. Without Roy, I have no charts, no PowerPoint, nothing. Can you help me? Right? With my, anyway, the first one says, Singaporeans lost difference between CPF interest and returns derived from CPF fund. Next slide. Anybody here 21 years old? 22? Okay, let's say you 21 years old, you start work, Your starting salary is $1,500. You work from 21 to 65. Assuming your employer offer you re-employment at 65, the same pay. Your CPF contribution, 1,500 salary, 38%, the new one, is $570. You assume that your salary increased at 4% a year. By the way, the government's target in the next decade for real wage increase works around a 4% nominal increase. If your CPF was paying you 3.5% average for the 44 years, when you're 65, you have 1.5 million. If the returns derived from your CPF is 6.5%, the figure is 3 million. So the difference is 1.5 million. In other words, every person who works from 21 to 65 roughly may have lost $1.5 million. So this room alone, already you lost more than 100 million. 100 million, not million. Right? Now that's the future, right? Most of you, the hair all like white or like mine, or some people, most people backward actually. Right? So we go backwards. How many of you were like 44 years ago was 21 years old? Anybody 65 and above? So many, right? So when you were 21, you go back, when you first started work, right? When you're 21, 44, 45 years ago, your starting salary $200. Okay? CPF contribution. Now, of course, the CPF rate go up and down. At one time was 50%, no, but 40 over years ago, you started work at $200. 3.5% average, you have about $200,000 CPF. If it's 6.5, you have $400,000. So each person, all those no hair, white hair one, right? You have lost maybe 200,000. So the whole room together, oh, you have white hair, no hair. Here alone, 21 million gone. So you see, why I started, I say that this is, I didn't say this now, but let me put it another way. This is the mother of all our problems. If you don't have this problem, where, I cannot find any other country in the world where the government takes the people's pension returns and keep it for themselves. And keep so much of it now. Right? This is the mother of all our problems. Because if even like Malaysia, one MDB, they also pay the EPF, Employee Provident Fund. What they earn, they pay out. They don't, government don't keep anything. I cannot find any country where the government keeps the people's returns from the pension fund, and so much of the returns. And it's the mother of all problem, because if you have a lot of money in CPF, you have money to retire. When your children go to education, you can pay for them. Right? Your children got no job, you can also pay money. If you look at the statistics, something is very strange. One of the reasons why the Singapore pension system has been described as one of the worst in the world is when they look at the retirement adequacy, that means the money that they actually get from the system when they retire is among the lowest in the world for developed countries. What it means is that most people, despite having the highest contribution rate in the world, when they retire, they take from CPF, the amount is so little. Let's see how little it is. The latest statistics, they tell you 55% of Singaporeans are able to meet the minimum sum, right? And they are active CPF members who have pledged property. Yesterday you got read, today you got read the news. Somebody said, hey, you must vote for the party that you trust to manage your money and your town council. You trust the people who are managing your money? Oh, okay. CPF minimum sum, 55% can meet, but read carefully. It's only those who including property pledge. If you exclude property pledge, about half of the 55% meet the minimum sum, which is now 161,000. The Medisave minimum sum has been removed, replaced by basic healthcare sum. Medisave minimum sum was 43,500. Basic healthcare sum is going to be 49,500. 49,800, I think, yeah. But of course, basic healthcare sum, you don't have no need to take from your ordinary account before you can withdraw. So 55% become half, is what, 27.5%. But these are only active CPF members. Now, for every one active CPF member, there are about approximately 0.9 inactive CPF member. You less some more, you get about maybe 15% only. So bottom line, only about 1 in 7 can meet the minimum sum despite having the highest contribution rate in the world. Of course, the low return is the main reason, but there's another very big one, HDB. During our late Prime Minister's era, our public housing was the cheapest in the world. Today, our public housing is the most expensive public housing in the world, measured by price to income. And so most of your CPF, you get low return, and the money buy the most expensive public housing, and you have no money to buy, then they take other people's money and lend to you at 2.6%, they still make 0.1%. Right? So the government also don't spend a single cent on public housing or HDB. They make a lot of money from you. That's why, Chris, only you are surprised when you see HDB got $10 billion in the surplus. This one, I never even bothered to look at the accounts. Every year they tell you, the more flat we sell, the more money we lose, 1 billion, then 2 billion, Of course lah, because every year you ask, hey, can you break down the price for us into the construction cost and the land cost? Silence. Go Parliament, ask, silence. Newspaper, ask, silence. Roy in the blog, hey, I didn't say that, We estimate the land cost to be about 60%. So, making money. Okay. Let me talk a bit about, since we are on the subject of eating up your CPF. Eating up your CPF? I can tell you a very funny story, A few years ago, they changed the policy. You go to hospital, right? Then the person died there, right? Then the hospital bill, not enough money to pay, right? Then got money in the Medisave, but already used up by whatever eligibility, withdrawal limit, all used, still got money in Medisave. The hospital cannot do anything to you because you got no money to pay, you have no assets, you got Medisave some balance which they cannot take because already exhaust the limit. So what do? They change the policy. Now, if you die in the hospital, they can take your Medisave, right? On top of whatever, you exhausted your eligibility and withdrawal limit. Since you die in the hospital, you owe more, they take all. So, what you should do? Don't die in the hospital. Die, you say, I must go home. Because if I die at home, I have no other assets. At least my family get whatever little is left, right, in my Medisave account. So sad, Read today newspaper. Wow. I think now the newspaper very funny, I cannot find any news, All I find is election propaganda, Huh? Page after page. Okay, let me just cite this one. Very, very cute one. Low-income households. Government transfers after paying taxes as a percentage of household income. Wow. Increase, from black increase until red. You see the bar chart. Right? In other words, they are having more government transfers. I think Chris mentioned this as well. But what's the problem? There are so many Singaporeans who are struggling to make ends meet. One study by one university professor says that 30% of households actually, spend more on household expenses than the income. So they must be struggling like crazy, right? And this is the bottom 1st to 20th percentile. So if you don't give them more government transfer, they'll be dead already. But look at the government transfers. Medisave top-up is government transfer, man. Medisave top-up can use, man. Subsidies. All these subsidies very funny, Wow, I increase the price, then give subsidy. Then I calculate, wow, this become government transfer, Do you know, one private hospital, the B1 room charge is actually cheaper than the B1 room charge in one of the public hospital after the 20% subsidy according to MOH? How can a private hospital be cheaper than the public hospital B1 after the 20% subsidy? All this subsidy is a bull. Less the other 4 letters. You go to the hospital, wow, the bill come, subsidy. Does the hospital get the subsidy that is printed, the bill? The answer is no. Hospitals are not reimbursed based on what you see on the bill. Hospitals get what they call an average treatment, roughly 100 people do what treatment, then they pay, right? And that's why, whether it's CPF, Medisave, we have tremendous problems. We need to hear from the best, because this little puppy is going to the lion's den, right? He needs all the support we can give him. And you know who I'm talking about? I give to you, Ryan!